Hi, everybody. How are you this evening? I hope you had a good day. First off, thank you guys who are watching the replay. I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone who got a chance to come on live today. I'm Precious S. Carter, obviously. I'm here just on my page, and I wanted to take some time to just say thank you to everyone who has bought any of my books, anyone who has listened to any of my podcasts, watched any of my videos, who has had any type of consultation, who's participated in any of my programs. I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate you. I really value you. And tonight I am going to discuss one of my absolute favorite topics, and that's boundaries. And I think it is so important. Like, it is an important topic to discuss because many of us, thank you guys for joining. Go ahead and comment and let me know who you are. Let me, just let me know who you are. Let me know that you're listening. Let me know if you have any questions. Share this. This is going to be really, really good because I think it's something that's important, right? So, a lot of people don't understand what boundaries are, and a lot of people don't understand the importance of boundaries. And some people who even understand what they are and they understand the importance don't feel the need to exercise them because they think that they're hi nephew, because they think that they understand them wrong, right? Like, so sometimes people think that a boundary is more like a barrier or a defense or a guard, instead of something that's going to define and outline and help you to maintain and have healthy relationships. So thank you guys for joining. Hi, Denise. Thank you. Blessings to you as well. So what a boundary is it is something that is going to demarcate a position, a status. Hi, Cheryl. A relationship, a boundary, a border. When I think about boundaries, think about a country, right? So think about the state of Ohio. The state of Ohio is right next to Kentucky and in Indiana. But the state of Ohio, its governmental office understands the boundaries, the limits that it has the right to exercise power. So if a city of Cincinnati officer is operating within its correct boundary, it will not cross the jurisdiction into Kentucky to give somebody a ticket or a citation, right? So when you think about boundaries, think about that. It's not necessarily something that is put there to defend, but it's something that's put in place in order to define, right? And so the thing about boundaries is they're there to define. They're there to have to add clarity, and they're there to add the position of where a certain person's or a thing's authority has permission to go. And boundaries should be clearly defined in every relationship, in every aspect of every relationship. That's one thing, they should be defined. Number two, they should be clearly communicated to whomever you're in the relationship with. And number three, they should be respected. Now, when you have boundaries, you have them for other people, but you have limits for yourself. And we're going to just spend some time talking about this because I just think it's something. Hi, Sheila. I love you so much and I appreciate you. Because I think it's just something that will help us have a much better success in our relationships in terms of marriage, in terms of business, in terms of money, in terms of finance. And when it comes to ourselves, we're going to have to learn to set limits, so we'll have much more success in our life, and we'll have much more control over the things that we do and don't do, and we will focus on, you're welcome, and we'll focus on the things that will help us get to our goals. So I started to think about boundaries because I have the vision board party coming up, and there are certain limits. So I had to set a limit for myself and a boundary for people. So the amount of people that I could even have due to social distancing, right? Because we all want to be safe. And so when you start to think about boundaries, they affect every aspect of your life. And so I want to talk today about what they are and what they aren't. So the best way for me to describe boundaries, the way that they make sense to me, is to think in terms of my home. So when I think in terms of my home, I have a house, I have a yard, I have a porch, and then there's kind of like my property line. So if I don't know you, but you're driving down the street and I wave at you, that is me just saying hello to you. And so if you and I are just on like a hello basis because you live on the same street with me, and I'm friendly with you to the point that I would speak to you, you still don't have the right to come onto my property. You have to remain outside of my property line until I invite you in, right? So that would be the boundary of an extremely superficial relationship. There's nothing wrong with having that type of relationship with a person. There's nothing wrong with having a type of relationship with like a business or even with money, right? So a person who I have that type of relationship with, their opinion won't mean much to me, right? So that doesn't mean that I disrespect them in any way. That doesn't mean that I don't even welcome, that I wouldn't even welcome to hear what they had to say. But it does mean that I'm not going to place much value on it or make a decision on my life based on someone who I have an extremely distant relationship with in terms of boundaries. Now, on the other hand, if I'm getting to know you, say you're my neighbor and we have become friendly with one another, we've said hi to each other multiple times, passing, driving up and down the street. Well, then now we might be on a walk and I might stop you and say, hey, how was your day? Come on over, let's talk. And so then our relationship is going to be one that you are now welcome in my yard, right? Like, you're welcome in my yard, and we might have a glass of tea, we might have some lemonade, and we might just talk about what's going on in the neighborhood, right? We might talk about the neighborhood watch, we might talk about the kids who vandalized something in another neighborhood, and we're so happy that, we have people here that care enough to speak up and not to let that type of property destruction. So that is still within a boundary of like, kind of superficial, but I'm getting to know you. But after a few conversations and I'm starting to trust you enough to invite you up on my porch, that is another boundary. So now I'm letting you in a little bit closer to me. I'm letting you come a little bit closer to me, but still there is a boundary, not a guard, but a boundary. That means that our relationship has grown, right? But we still have a limit with our interaction. So now you can sit on my porch, you can come in my backyard, you might even be able to sit around my fire pit and we can talk about, what kids our school go, what school our kids go to, what type of grades they get, who their teacher is, what football game team they play for, and things like that. So that is like just another line of demarcation. Like that is another limit to our relationship. Is graduated, but still, if I have that type of a relationship with you, that does not give you the permission to come into my home. If I let you come into my home, that's yet another level of a boundary, right? So now I have opened my door to you. So anybody who I would let come into my home, you'd have access to sit at my table. You have access to sit at my couch. You'd have access to go to my bathroom. Like that's easy, right? If someone is able to come into my house, I at least want them to be able to be comfortably seated, be able to relieve themselves if they have to, and then I can serve them, whatever it is that I choose to serve them, right? And then the next level would be, okay, now I feel comfortable enough with you that I will allow you to go into my refrigerator, or I might even allow you to cook a meal at my stove, or I might even allow you to, go get my baby out of the crib. I don't have a baby, but I'm just saying the access that I would give you to my home. Now, in all of these relationships that I've discussed, there is no disrespect in them, right? There's nothing wrong with my relationship with the person who I would still just talk to from the edge of my property line to their car, or there's nothing wrong with the relationship that I have with the person who I'm outside in my front yard and I'm talking about sports with. It just is a different type of a relationship than the people that are allowed inside my home. And even those who are allowed inside my home, there is yet a different relationship with the people who are allowed inside versus the people who are allowed to cook, the people who are allowed to go on my refrigerator, the people who I would have an expectation to do something like in my absence, right? And so then the most intimate place would be that with my husband or my children, like somebody who can come into my bedroom, somebody who could sit on my bed, somebody who could see me naked, somebody, you know what I mean? Like that is just a different level of relationship. The problem is people are afraid of the word boundary because they think that it means I am creating a barrier. Because many times the two words are used incorrectly, right? So when you think of a barrier, you think of like a wall. Like, for example, the president wanted to build a wall to try to keep people out. Well, boundaries are not there to keep people out. Boundaries are there to define the relationship. Boundaries are there to create a safe space for a healthy relationship. Hi, Alina. I'm sorry, hi, Vanessa. Boundaries are there to create a safe space for relationships. So barriers are usually defense mechanisms when you're thinking about in terms of people. Barriers are built because people have been hurt. And so a lot of times people will build up barriers as a defense mechanism, and they will think that they're creating boundaries when in fact all you're doing is actually coming into agreement with a system that wants you, a demonic system that wants you to be isolated, and it doesn't want you to thank you, and it doesn't want you to develop healthy relationships. So I wanted to give the difference between boundaries and barriers because people are afraid of both. And I wanted to give the difference because I think it is very important that we start to exercise and create boundaries so that we can have healthy relationships. The reason that this came up most recently with one of the people who I work for, actually, it was related to money, right? And so I began to share how my husband and I had to come up with some really specific boundaries when it came to our money. Let me just go back. My husband and I have been married since I was 20, he was 19. And in the beginning of our relationship, we had no type of boundaries with our family. So my husband's family and my family felt like they had a lot of input to the decisions that we made. And although my husband and I did not like it, and we would discuss it amongst ourselves for many years, we did not communicate that clearly to them. So number one, remember I said that your boundaries have to be clearly defined, but then secondly, they have to be clearly communicated. So we found ourselves frustrated each and every time one of our family members would overstep that boundary. But in fact, we had to learn that that was our fault because we did not communicate what our expectation was for that relationship. So people thought that it was okay for them to try to decide who we can have in our house, how we spent our money, what we could say no to, when we could go, when we couldn't go, because, we weren't taught that. Neither one of us had a strong and solid upbringing to where we knew these things. These are things we had to learn as we grew. And then the other thing was we had to learn to set very clear boundaries in terms of money. Neither of us grew up with money, and I'm not saying we're rich now, but we have learned to save. And we would not have ever been able to do that without boundaries, because what we know within families as a people is we are always expected to help people. And I'm all for helping people. Anybody who knows me will tell you that. But I'm also all for not becoming a crutch for someone. And I'm also all for not helping someone to the detriment of myself. And I haven't always been like that. I don't think that it's smart to give the shirt off your back, because you can't care for yourself and you can't put yourself in a position to do better if you give the shirt off your back. How are you going to get home? What are you going to wear tomorrow? So I think that we have to start to use wisdom. And so the boundary that we set with money is the reason that we did it was not because of being a crutch, but it was because that's my son, y'all. Hi, baby. It wasn't because of being a crutch, but it was because we started to have goals that we would set for ourselves, and we would feel guilty for saying no, right? We would feel guilty. We would feel like we owe someone an explanation to say no. And the truth of it is we don't, right? So say I had a goal to save, I did, this was actual, right? I had a goal to save $10,000. And every time I would get to about $5,000 or $6,000, something major would happen in somebody's life. And the something major happened to happen in the same person's life over and over again. And each time my husband and I would give, and now we are set back because we got a specific reason that we wanted to save this $10,000. And so I began to learn that I was becoming a crutch for that person. Hi, Sarah, that's my daughter-in-law, and I love her. But anyway, we began to become a crutch. And so what happens is my husband and I are over here frustrated because like this person keeps asking us for money, right? We're frustrated, but still, and yet we are allowing the thing to keep happening, right? Because we didn't want them to feel a certain type of way about us. That we didn't want them to feel like we were selfish. We didn't want them to feel like we didn't care for them. We didn't want them to feel like, we were mean or we thought we were too good. But what we had to learn within ourselves was we were dealing with pride. And because of that pride, we were trying to please people. And when you are trying to please people, let me tell you, you can't do it anyway. I don't care if you do every single thing that somebody wants you to do. They're always going to want more, and you're always not going to do it the way that they wanted you to do it. So you need to learn to establish like a clear, defined set of rules within yourself so that when someone comes to you, you already know your answer. So the thing that my husband and I decided was we weren't loaning money anymore. Like if you had a need and we knew about it and we just wanted to give to you, then we would give to you. But we weren't loaning money because number one, when we had loaned money in the past, and we wouldn't even ask for it back, but the people who we loan money to would like start dodging our calls or stop coming around thinking that we were upset with them, when in fact, like most of the time when we have loaned money, after a while you just like whatever, like they need it, when you get it you can give it back. So loaning money started to cause us to have problems in different relationships. So we just decided we weren't doing it anymore. And now, like when we want to, we can give people the money that we want to. And we don't have to feel, tension in our relationships. Every person who has owed us any money, we made this decision last year. People who owe us any money prior to that, we just like, it's a wash, let it go. Don't even think about it. Don't bring it up. Because it's a boundary. Like we have created a limit for ourselves, meaning that we won't give, unless our account is at a certain level, and that's the limit for ourselves. And the boundary is you don't have a right to dictate what I give to you when I give it to you, right? Like I give when I want to. And that is the same that we had to learn in terms of people giving feedback in our relationship. Like we were young and we didn't know any better. And a lot of time with his family overstepping or with my family overstepping, it would cause friction in our home. Meanwhile, he and I are over there frustrated with, like, I was frustrated with him because why you let your people talk to me like that? He frustrated with me, Liz. Why you let your people talk to me like that? Like, you know what I mean? And it caused friction in our home. And they're at home sleeping well. And we are in our house struggling and frustrated with one another because we don't feel like we're on the same page. So we had to learn the importance of boundaries. And so now there are people that we will trust with the issues of our relationship, that we will trust to be intimate with us enough to know if there's something wrong with us. We trust them to be intimate with us. We trust them to share, like we are totally accountable to them. We trust them that they will respect us and they will guide us and they will give us the truth. And that is the boundary of that relationship. But even then, like they don't make any decisions in our relationship. We trust them, but we have to always come back together because we have the most intimate relationship. We don't have boundaries between us. So we have to come together and make those decisions. And then you have people who are allowed in our home, like that can walk around our home that we might share some details with just to vent, but they know the boundaries. Like you don't have a right to say anything about my husband. You don't have a right to say anything about his wife, but we might vent to you. And the people who are just allowed to sit at our table, we might just talk about it while they're there, but when they come right in the room with us, we stop talking about it. The people who are on our porch and at our fire pit, they don't know anything about what's going on inside of our home, and definitely not inside of our bedroom. And I want you to start to think about every relationship like that, right? Like, and it's okay if you have already allowed someone in a place that they don't really belong. There's nothing worse than being in a relationship with somebody and they're frustrating you because they're overstepping a boundary that you have, or they're doing something that you don't really want them to do, or they're saying something that you don't really want them to say. and you're afraid to say something because you're afraid of being rejected, or you're afraid of being abandoned, or you're afraid of losing that relationship, so you don't want to say anything, but yet it's still you're harboring all of this uncomfortability, and it's going to turn into resentment, and it's going to turn into bitterness, which is going to poison you. So you have to learn to break free of the fear of people, of losing people in your life, right? Because people really do, people who love you, they really do understand boundaries, like, because people don't want you overstepping the boundaries that you have and that they have in their life. And so what I want you to start to think about is what relationships that you have that make you feel good, and then what are the relationships that you have that make you feel uncomfortable, and start to really ask yourself why that is. And I think the answer that you'll come up with is that you have allowed people to, thank you, you have allowed people to cross into territory that wasn't necessarily meant for them to cross into, right? And as you start to think about that, start to think about why, when you wanted to tell them that that wasn't their place, or why, when you wanted to tell them no about something, you didn't. And you're going to find that it is something within yourself. It's a level of fear that's within yourself that caused you not to speak when you should have spoken. So really, like, seriously, I'm not even joking. I really want you to start to assess the relationships that you're in, the ones that make you feel good and the ones that make you uncomfortable, and think about what it is about the relationship that makes you uncomfortable, and how many times that you've wanted to say, hey, I don't like that. You know, I can remember I had a certain person in my life who I really loved and I really looked up to, but they had started to frustrate me again. And so most people know, like, I was rejected for many years of my life. I was born in prison to, you know, a mom who was a hustler and a drug user. I grew up with my grandmother and then my aunt, and I was abused. So you have to know that I suffered from feeling rejected, a spirit of rejection, for many years of my life. And so I spent much of my life trying to please people, right? I spent much of my life trying to make others happy, trying to make others like me. I spent much of my life trying to fit in and never really feeling comfortable with being myself. So it was really hard for me to dig myself out of that. But I got to a point in life where I was tired of feeling uncomfortable. Like, I was tired of being mad because people just thought they could do and say whatever. But what I had to own is that I allowed people to do and say whatever because I was so scared of not having a relationship with them. Like, I was so scared. Like, in the back of my mind, I thought, if I didn't have my mom and daddy, why the heck would they stay around? Like, I better let them do whatever it is that they want to do. I better let them say whatever it is that they want to say. And so it really took me to get intimate with my father, and I'm talking God because I didn't have a father, like, you know what I mean? So it took me to really get intimate with him and to get to know what it is that he thought about me, for me to even feel comfortable with establishing boundaries and telling people no, and telling people I'm not comfortable with the way that you're talking to me, and telling people, like, no, yeah, we can talk about this, but this is off limits. You know what I mean? It took me a long time. And what I had to learn, what was behind that, was a fear of rejection, a fear of abandonment, a fear of, if I tell you how I really feel, you're not going to be my friend anymore. But the truth of it is, a person who cannot honor and respect you where you are, honor and respect your feelings, they're not really your friend anyway. They're not really your people anyway. So you need to let them go so you can have room for better people in your life. So that's what I want you guys to think about. The next thing that I want to talk about, that. So I want you guys to think about those relationships that make you happy and those that make you uncomfortable, and think about why you haven't told them that they're making you uncomfortable, and why you haven't put them back into the position that you want them to be in. So Denise said, we have to decide who is adding value to our life and who is not. And whoever is not adding value to our life, we don't give access to us. Boundaries, right? So, you know, I'm all about, like, I'm clear on boundaries now. Like, I don't have a problem. Well, so let me tell you guys, this is a situation that came up recently. I had some people that I had kind of allowed into an inner sanctum in my life, so to speak, right? Like, I let them have access to a lot of information about me, including my money, including my relationship. And then guess what? So in the beginning of the relationship, my husband was like, nah, we need to back up. But then he kind of let it go because, you know, nah, but they cool. And then I was like, nah, it's something just off. But then, you know, we just ended up letting it go. But in the back of both of our minds, we knew, like, this ain't even us. Like, this is not even the way that we roll. This ain't how we occupy space. You know, it's just not even us. And so then we had a situation come up. And, you know, you got Holy Spirit telling you this whole time, like, nah, this ain't for you. I'm not saying to end a relationship, but I'm definitely saying that you need to create boundaries. But we didn't listen. And then, you know, it ended up going that one type of way that stuff can go, right? And so all we could do was say, dang, that was our fault. We knew better. We thought that because of, you know, being around us and being exposed to us, that their life can change. But in our reality, like, people change when they want to change. Like, you know what I mean? So that was a lesson that we had to learn. And we keep it in the forefront of our mind. And now when that kind of stuff creeps up, we definitely talk about it. And we definitely, like, we hit that pause button right away. Absolutely. God will expose who is genuinely for you, and real relationships have a genuine exchange. Absolutely. And thank you for that. So I want you guys to start to think about those relationships again, why you haven't said anything. And then next time I come on, like, I'm going to talk about this on my other social media too. It's so hard trying to do it like all at one time. So I'm just going to break it down because I just think it's important. But I want you to start to think about that. And I want you to start to, as you really start to understand that you're dealing with fear, whether it's rejection, abandonment, or you're just dealing with pride and you're people pleasing because you're too concerned with what people think about you and how they see you. It's pride, it's selfishness, like, let it go. But next time I come on, I don't know when, I want to talk about pride. I want to talk about fear, and I want to talk about how to overcome it. You're very welcome, Denise, and thank you for joining. So if you guys don't follow me, like, on my business page, it's Precious S. Carter. Follow me there, please. Please share this out because I think it's really good and I think it will help people. Also follow me on Instagram, okay? And if you guys are interested in doing vision boards, go ahead and sign up for the vision board party, which is going to be on the 21st there in Cincinnati. We haven't opened up the doors virtually yet because I'm not exactly sure how, like, I'm not exactly sure if the videographer is going to be able to make it happen to the level that I want to make it happen. So we'll just see. But if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask them now, or you can always email me at info@preciousscarter.com. I don't think I had anything else. Okay, that's it. So I don't see any questions. I know there's, like, usually a little delay. So I'm going to wait here and look at y'all. Silly. Thank you, everybody, again, for just hopping on with me. I appreciate it. You guys could have been doing anything. So my husband is outside. Well, he just got finished grilling. Like, I made a salad. It looks good. I'm going to put it in my stories. I took a picture. He just got on the grill. He just hopped off. I hear him walking in the house now. So this is perfect timing. Yeah. Thank you so much for the heart. Share this. If you're not following my pages, follow me, and follow me on Instagram too. I love you guys. Have a good night. Thanks for sharing. Been there, catch myself sometimes. Yep. Saying no, and you don't even have to give like, no is a complete sentence. You know, it is. All right, I'm out. Love you guys. Bye.